My friends, it's Doug with Books by Page, coming to you from Philadelphia at Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was written and adopted on July 4th, 1776, marking the beginning of the United States of America. The fine folks at the National Park Service have granted us early access to this venerated hall so we can video it, show it to you on the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. This is where a committee of 5 delegates, John Adams of Massachusetts, who would become the country's second president, Thomas Jefferson of Virginia, who would become the country's third president, Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania, one of the country's great early diplomats, Roger Sherman of Connecticut, and Robert Livingston of New York, sat down, wrote, drafted, and rewrote the Declaration of Independence, which would later be adopted by the Continental Congress and signed by all of its 56 delegates. Not only does the Declaration of Independence proclaim the colonies are declaring themselves free from Great Britain, but it also says why. And in essence, what it says is that the government in London overstepped its bounds and, in effect, engaged in abusive behavior towards Americans and its individual colonies.
So the building that we're in now, that's known as Independence Hall, the construction started in 1732 as the Pennsylvania State House. So this was purpose-built for the Pennsylvania Assembly to serve as the State House of Pennsylvania. So again, the construction starts in 1732, but it's actually not finished until 1748. And the first meetings actually took place here in this room in 1735, despite the fact that it wasn't finished. But they move in 1748. And then the bell tower that's on the back of the building was added in 1753. And that is where the now Liberty Bell hung until the 1840s.
And then you got the states all represented here, or pretty all these represented. How is it divided? Who is they doing this alphabetically, or are they doing this by?
So we actually don't know. We have very little information about how the building looked in the 18th century. We have snippets, we have receipts, we'll have a few personal accounts, but actually where people sat, what things looked like, we don't actually know. So what we have assembled here is kind of our best guess as to how the room looked. And we have set the Southern delegates on the Southern side, the Northern delegates on the Northern side. And so it is a representative of, the number of people that were here, the things that took place here. But like what it actually looked like is a bit of a mystery.
In your role as the archivist and curator, what is the most interesting thing you've come across so far?
Oh, well, we all have our favorite things. I think one of the things that we're most proud of in our collection is a little piece of dental molding. So see those little things that look like teeth all the way around the edge. So those are called dentals. And in 1966, when they restored the building, we took her down to stud. So this room was just nothing but floor and brick. And we found workman's trash in the eaves from the 18th century, including one little piece of dental molding. And we consider that to be one of our most important artifacts because, again, we don't really know what the room looked like because it's gone through many, many changes over time. And so that piece of dental molding actually is what we use to calculate all of the paneling that you see here today. So because of Georgian symmetry, we were able to do the calculations. And so it's based off of that one little dental.
Let's talk about some of the leading personalities here, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. What's your take on these two?
Well, they're two very different people. And I think the story of their personal relationship over the course of their lives says a lot about who they are and where they stand on things. When I think about the Declaration and how, it came about being what it became, who wrote it. And there was a committee of 5 that was established. And I have a soft spot for John Adams. He's cranky, he's irascible. I feel the same way here in the summers. So I understand where he's coming from. But I think about when they were meeting to write the Declaration, and Adams is adamant that it has to be Jefferson. He says, "You're a Virginian. Virginia is the most powerful colony in the state. You appeal to Southerners. You're a better writer than I am." But more importantly, he says, "I am obnoxious, I am suspected, and I am unpopular. You are very much otherwise." And it was those words. And frankly, I think John Adams, having a very big ego, set aside his personal feelings and also, self-ambitions to ensure that this happened. I think he was the Declaration's, one of its fiercest defenders.
And really, in many ways, sort of an unsung hero. What's it like to work here every day? You're here every day. Do you feel the ghost of this building, for lack of a better term?
So it's an incredible honor to work here. I remember telling my mom, "Oh, I have keys to Independence Hall now, Mom." And she was like, "Oh my gosh!" So it's an incredible honor, and you do very much feel the weight of it. There's something about the air, and you do feel the weight, the heaviness of the things that happened here in this room. We have a lot of people ask us about ghosts and things like that. We certainly, I don't subscribe to that, but at the same time, you feel that energy. You feel the presence of all of those who came before us, and not even just the people that were here in the 18th century doing this, but all of the things that have happened here since throughout the last 250 years.
How many visitors do you get annually?
I think around about 3 to 4 million every year just for Independence Hall. So everybody has really different reactions. And I think it's a very personal experience for people when they come here. There are reasons that they come here. There are things that drive us here. And I think it is somewhat of a pilgrimage, if you will, for a lot of people to come here and be in the room where it happened. And I have seen people cry. I have seen people, people get very emotional. You see people cry. Veterans especially, you can almost feel the emotion coming out of them. And so I think it is, again, a very personal experience. I think they all knew what they were doing. If we're talking about the Declaration, they're committing treason. They're putting their lives, honor, their sacred fortunes, into real jeopardy. And it was a dangerous thing for them to do as well. And so I think, if you're looking at the Declaration period, the tension is palpable. The fear of taking this incredible step. And then, we get through the American Revolution and we start the Constitutional Convention, and that's a whole nother step. So they're very different movements and events that require very different approaches. And I think for people who are trying to build an infant nation, that's fraught with a lot of different fears, expectations, and hopes.
Benjamin Franklin was part of that group. What's his role here?
You have to remember, too, that he was a lot older than most of the delegates. So he was the elder statesman, during this period. And it's hard for us to imagine that, like, Adams, Washington, Jefferson. Washington wasn't part of the Declaration Congress, but, they were all in their 30s or early 40s. They're young men who are doing this. And here you have Franklin, who was well into his 60s and 70s. And he's providing the oversight. He is providing my words are failing me right now and Franklin would be disappointed. But
they didn't like some sure.
I think he's providing calm. I think he's also pushing people to be their best. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that comes from the Committee of Five is he is there kind of as this respected elder statesman who can add balance to what's happening.
President Lincoln referred to the Declaration of Independence as the apple of gold. And this is a critical thing. Which he infers is the Declaration's second sentence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The word men, said John Adams, is a universal term, referring to both genders as he saw it. And in his fragment on the Constitution, which he wrote 2 months before he became the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln said that the principle of liberty to all, which is in the Declaration of Independence, is the principle that clears the path for all, gives hope to all, and by consequence, enterprise and industry to all. And that the assertion of this liberty, this principle of liberty, he says, is the apple of gold. That is the union of the individual states and the Constitution, and that they are the picture of silver subsequently framed around it. And the picture was not made or to destroy or to conceal the apple, but to adorn and preserve it. Thus, the picture was made for the apple, not the apple for the picture. And that, my friends, is a page turner.